Welcome, everybody. I am supremely excited to have our guest on today. I want to share with you this special interview. We have the creator of the Order of Man. As you can see, the beard, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ryan Michler. How are you,
Hey
sir?
Armando, I'm good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, it's been great. You know, we've communicated several times through the Order of Man,
Yeah,
and it's just been a really powerful community you've built. So why don't we lay the groundwork first of all on what you've created with the Order of Man,
sure.
and
Yeah,
then we'll kind of move forward into some other good stuff that we have planned.
perfect. Yeah, Order of Man really is a brotherhood, as a society. We're trying to build a collective group of men to help each other become better men. We always hear the term "no man is an island," and that's the reality. We can't get to where we want to be entirely on our own. You can't get what you want. I can't get what I want. And so when we band together, when we group together, we're able to bring each other's strengths. We're able to help uplift each other in the weaknesses and the areas that we have. And so that's what Order of Man is all about. We focus on a lot of key areas in life and helping men become better versions of themselves and helping them live to their full potential. But the group has been really powerful because men are having some real conversations about masculinity and their strugglehoods with fatherhood and career advancement and all the things that are important, health, which is right up your alley, and a lot about what you talk about, and mental strength and fortitude. So it's been really exciting to see the growth in the group so far.
Yeah. So right now, how many members are you? Is the order at right now?
So we've got a lot of different places that men can tune in. We've obviously got the podcast and the blog, and you've been on the podcast. But within the Facebook group itself, I think we're just under 1,600 guys right
Wow.
now. Yeah, which is cool, and it's
Yeah.
really active. It's really engaged, and that's what I like. And there's all kinds of different conversations. I'm amazed at how many different types of conversations we're actually having over there.
Right. Well, I'm also a member of the Order of Men,
Yes.
or I'm part of that group and part of that community. And again, like you said, definitely a lot of interesting conversations that you don't hear men speaking about. And so
Yeah.
you've created essentially a safe space for them to not only express that, but also have a community of support around that, which I think is really powerful.
Right.
One thing that I want to add to that, I've noticed that there is a undertones of the military in a very positive way, not in a very like downgrading way. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah. So I spent some time in the military. I learned in sports. I played basketball, football, and baseball, but then I also learned it in the military. So I spent some time in Iraq in 2005, 2006. So I learned a lot about discipline and teamwork and commitment and honor, integrity, all those values that I think are very, very important for men to adhere to. So a lot of what I learned through the military and through sports translates over into my everyday life, which is just part of the conversation that I'm having. And I think that's why it's resonating with these men. It's interesting. A lot of the guys in there are very similar to you and I, and where we are and the stations that we are in life. And so I think that's why it resonates so well. But you're right. We do have a lot of men in there who are active or retired military. We've got a lot of police officers, fire department, first responders. For some reason, and I don't know, maybe this is something I need to look into it a little bit more, but it really resonates with that group of men. And I think it has probably something to do with the fact that they understand what it takes to a degree to get to the next level. They really want to develop in their life. They really see the importance of all those virtues that we talked about, and being in a group of men. Obviously, you have that in the military. A lot of first responders have that within their careers and their line of work. And so I think that's why it resonates so well with these guys.
Right. So now you've also I'm gonna actually pivot a little bit here because
Sure.
so you have this strong community of men. You've created this safe haven for them to speak openly and not feel like they're going to be persecuted about it. You provided the community to help give more clarity to men. One of the things that I noticed that there are both, let's just call them seasoned veterans versus some young guys in there too,
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed, and everything in between. But now you've also kind of taken another step, and you've created the Iron Council, right? The Iron
Yeah.
Council
Right.
Senate.
That's
So
right.
why don't you tell me a little bit about the Iron Council, and also how is it different than just a general community?
Topic into a Google search engine, you're going to get millions upon millions of results. So if you type in become a better man, I don't know how many results will come up, but the reality is that the problem isn't that there's not enough information out there. There definitely is. You put out a ton of information. I put out a ton of information. There's all kinds of guys who are putting out very similar information to what we have and what we're putting out. The problem is that guys, frankly, a lot of men just aren't implementing that information. And so there's a disconnect between what we know and what we actually do. And so that's where the Iron Council comes in. My goal with that is to take great information from, hey, this is a good idea, to now I'm implementing this in my life and I'm actually seeing the benefits and the results of putting that knowledge to work. So that's the differentiator. So we've got men in the Iron Council, which is can be considered a mastermind where we meet virtually every single week. We talk about a lot of these 8 key skill sets. There's different assignments the men receive. We hold each other accountable. We have a book club. There's so much work going on within the Iron Council that's helping men take it from I know it to I'm actually using it in my life. That's the difference.
Why do you think that this problem exists with men? In other words, you mentioned that there's a lot of this information, and so I guess the question is why aren't men clear about what it truly means be a man, to be a man, and then why are they not executing on the things that would help them in their life, do you think?
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of, there's a lot of different answers to this. The first one is sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And so even though the information's out there, there's so much information. Where do you go? Where do you turn? What's worthy of implementing? What's not? How do you sift through the clutter? You and I have had some amazing conversations about health and mindset and wealth and all the things that you cover. And in your line of work, in your area of expertise, how much information is out there that's actually garbage that you probably shouldn't be listening to?
Right.
And so I think a lot of the times what happens is guys end up saying, yeah, I'm just going to throw up my hands. Nothing works. I don't know what works. So we have this paralysis by analysis. So I think that's probably number one. Number two is we just get so consumed with being in the rat race that we don't take time to think about these things, let alone implement them. So we wake up in the morning and as soon as our alarm goes off, and we go take a shower, we get cleaned up, we head right into the office, and then our boss or whoever it may be starts making all these demands, and we do that, and then we come home and we eat dinner, and our kids are demanding our time. And all of those things are great if you have it prioritized, but we just don't take the time to be deliberate about our lives. We hang out with the guys at the office or our neighborhood. We do the things that we're expected to do, and we live inside this little box, and we never consciously think about what we want our lives to look like. So those are a couple of disconnects, and we're telling guys, hey, take a step back. Let's pause. Let's learn some of this information. Let's be deliberate about the way that we structure our day and our week and our year so that we can build in some of this learning. We can build in opportunities for brotherhood and networking and education. And so I think those are probably the main reasons that I see as to why guys aren't implementing more of this information into their lives.
Okay. What would you say is different from this program than perhaps other programs that may be out there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is obviously the community. I'm really amazed and quite honestly somewhat surprised at how vulnerable that we've all been willing to be. And I think that's probably built into the culture is that I want guys to be vulnerable. I want them to be willing to share, hey, this is what I'm really struggling with, because there's a lot of other men, literally 1,500 other men who can be a resource for you if you're struggling in that specific area. So the accountability is huge. The vulnerability is huge. Within the Iron Council, even, we actually set up some accountability systems and processes, accountability partners. So you'll have access to guys where you'll be having phone calls with them, talking with each other about certain assignments that we've completed, whether it's wealth or health or fitness. We have some expert blab conversations if you're familiar. Well, you're familiar with blab because you came on and did a conversation about health. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that, but I think the accountability is going to be huge. Again, you can get a lot of the information that I talk about, that you talk about online, and then never do anything with it. But you've got to have an accountability partner. You've got to have somebody willing to say, hey, how is that going? What do you want to improve in? What can I help? And reaching out to you constantly to make sure you're on track for your goals and what it is you want out of life.
This program, how long has it been running already? I know you had a first go around already.
Yeah, we did. So, and that one's actually coming to a close. So we're not even completed with the first Iron Council team. So that was it's a 3 month course is what the first one was. So we've been going for about 90 days now. I've learned a lot about how to communicate with these guys, how to make sure that we build in the systems that are going to make implementation easy. Not maybe not easy is the word, but simple. But it's still on the guys to make sure they're implementing that
Right.
stuff. So we've been going for about 90 days. This next round, I guess, is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more of an open mastermind. So it's not like it's a start date and here's a close date, and get into that information from day one. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
Okay. So what? Now that you use the word exciting, like what about now having pretty much almost completed one go around and opening the
Yeah.
second one? What excites you most about having the Iron Council or delivering it?
Yeah, the best thing that I've seen personally is the feedback that I've received from the guys that are getting job promotions, guys that are making more money, guys that are having better relationships with their families or in their communities. And so every time we actually see men impact, and we're not just the talking heads and have this rhetoric where nothing's actually getting done. So I love to see the progress with these guys and the developments they're making in their lives. That's it excites me the most.
You put the program together because you knew that it could deliver results. I
Hmm.
guess, have any of the results been shocking? Something that you weren't expecting that came as a result of it, or pretty much the results are on point with what you kind of architect?
Yeah, I mean the goal was always to help them get those results in the 8 key areas of their life. We can talk a little bit about that if you want, but obviously that was what we wanted to accomplish. But what I am excited to see is for them to step up as leaders in their own life. That's been maybe not surprising, but the biggest thing that I've seen is that they're now taking more accountability, they're now taking more responsibility, and they're being the leader in their community, in their family, in their business. Even within the Iron Council, these guys, you can see them, the personal development and the fact that they're now stepping up. It's exciting and surprising to see that the level of personal accountability and responsibility that the guys are taking in their lives more so than when they started. So we've got guys that are extremely advanced in certain areas of their lives and guys that are just getting started in certain areas of their lives. So regardless of where you're at, it was really cool to see them move down the line because frankly, we have other men who are in the group right now who are wealthier than me or who are more physically fit than me or who are better leaders. And so that's what's really cool is we can learn all this information. And it's really cool to see the demographics and the wide range of guys that we actually have in the group and we can glean information from.
Very cool. I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask a question that, I'm a guy that really like thrives on vision. I think that
Yeah.
you are also along that realm. So here's my vision question for you. What
Okay.
does a world with men using principles taught in the Iron Council look like?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm gonna go to and talk a little bit about the problems in the world,
Okay.
um, and see if we can eliminate some of these things because I think we can. So the first thing I think of is fatherless homes. You're talking about your kids at home. I've got my kids. They're probably still in bed. It's a little earlier here for me. Maybe they're up and running now. I don't hear them yet. But I grew up without a permanent father figure, and I think that you can be successful in life and as a man without a father figure. But I think that that's a hurdle, and I think that's one more obstacle that we as growing boys and men probably shouldn't be faced with because we need to learn information from our fathers and how to be good men. So that's the first thing. As I see this increase in fatherless homes, number one. Number two is we see record rates of bankruptcy and we see record rates of businesses going out of business. And the reason is because we're not, as men, adhering to the virtues that I think we probably should adhere to. Mostly and specifically personal accountability and responsibility. Are you responsible with your business? Are you responsible with your money? Are you helping other people in a way that helps them but also helps you? Is it a mutually beneficial relationship? We don't see that in business. Men, and I say men, and this is real general, but uh, we worry about profits first, and we don't care how this impacts other people. We don't care about how it impacts the community. And so I think as business owners, we have a responsibility to lead our businesses that help the community and help us at the same time. And then also, I mean, talk about a lack of leadership. You know, we see this in the political climate, and it's the reason that everybody has such a hard time with the political debates that we have, the upcoming presidential election. We have leaders that I don't even call them leaders. We have people up there that just are not worthy of us following them. Uh, they don't have integrity. They're not telling the truth. They're not leading us where we want to be led. They're not doing what we ask them to do. And really, they're kind of spineless, generally speaking. And so those are three problems that I see right offhand. More fathers, better communities, stronger communities, men participating in their communities and their sports and helping uplift the community, better leadership locally, but also internationally and globally and nationally as well. And then obviously helping each other or growing businesses as well. So those are some benefits, I think, of having stronger men.
Yeah. That's a really powerful insight that you share there, because it's interesting. Like I'm not one for politics much. I would vote. I think like many people, they wrote on like, hey, the presidential election and stuff like that. And I remember my wife told me something that I never considered, and she said, well, because my excuse was always like, first of all, I don't follow it, and then number two, like I don't even feel like voting a lot of times, because like exactly what you said. It's like I'm choosing not the one that I like, is the one that I least like.
Dislike.
Yeah, and she said, well, the reason that is because the the community, the local communities haven't voted at the most local level to bring up the leaders in reality that you're looking for. And so
Right.
everybody waits for that part, and and in that whole process, people are sneaking in that shouldn't be in there. and,
Right.
and I think it speaks a lot to what you're saying, is that when you create a generation of, we're going to, this is about men in this particular case, right? But women will work just the same, of
Mm-hmm.
men, right, that are operating under responsibility and integrity and honesty, and are courageous and, like you said, worthy to be leaders, or
Right.
worthy to have followers, if you will. Then then all of this starts changing, because it happens one man at a time. And so I think it's an exciting time to see this unfolding in a way that is so accessible to men nowadays.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a huge need, Armando, for guys like you and guys like me who adhere to those values, adhere to those principles, are teaching our kids those principles, are teaching the community, are being business leaders. There's such a strong need for guys like us who are willing to do it and then willing to stand up, share the message, be vocal about it, even in the face of criticism and maybe complaints and people not liking our message, still willing to share what needs to be shared so that we can all improve our journey.
Cool. Well, is there something that I haven't asked you that I probably should have, that could be really valuable for somebody listening right now?
I think the biggest thing with Order of Man and Iron Council, and a lot of people have asked me why has it been successful? Because frankly, we haven't been going that long. We started Order of Man in April of 2015, so we've been going for just about 9 months now. And I've had a lot of people ask me why it's been successful, and I'll tell you why it's been so successful is because it's called Order of Man. or iron council, which connotates that it's a collective process, that it's a collective tool, that it's a brotherhood, a society. It's not called Order of Ryan. It's not look how great I am and look at all the amazing things that I'm doing. It's let's be resources for each other. Let's bring each other in. Let's lift each other up, because Armando, when I lift you up or you lift me up, in turn, we're also rewarded from that as well. So I think that is the biggest benefit. And men don't have that. I mean, when's the last time that you hung out with the guys? A lot of times it just doesn't happen. And I think there's a camaraderie and there's a brotherhood and there's some networking and there's some things that we really need to tap into and to latch onto each other when it comes to being surrounded with other motivated and ambitious men. And so that's what we're trying to create.
That's great. That's great. Are there... It's interesting you say that, because I'm gonna go full circle for a second, because you said at the
Sure.
beginning that one of the aims in the Iron Council was a level of purpose, a purposefulness in essentially surrounding yourself with the peer group that will really elevate you and support
Right.
you and keep you accountable to your word, and go from there.
Sure.
And so when you ask me, when was the last time you kind of hung out with men? And locally, it's very difficult. In fact, with a lot of the men that I work with, that's one of the biggest things. And so the fact that you said that, like, one of the things that I'm very purposeful about is having conversations like this with people like you, whether we're meeting on, it's usually virtually, because they're all over the place.
Right. Exactly.
And so what it sounds like, and what it sounds like you're sharing, and what you've created is a step up from the actual order to guys that are committed both in time, financially, right? Because there is a financial component to this. This isn't like there's a pay to play kind of mentality for this next level.
Right.
And you can get a lot of value from the order itself, because, like we've mentioned, there's a lot of support. There's almost 1,600 guys that you can draw from. But the Iron Council is now, hey, not only am I going to invest my time, I'm also going to, like, put my money where my mouth is and really commit in a lot of different levels here. And so it raises the stakes a lot more.
And it does. It's good that you have to pay to be involved, because it shows the other men who are members of the council that you're interested and you're vested in being there.
Right.
Because if you could just show up and there's no barrier to entry, whether that's through an application or whether that's through a monetary commitment, I mean, what are you really going to get?
Right.
Probably you're going to get the same thing that you've always had in life. So the reason we create those, I call them barriers to entry, is because I want men in the group who are seriously committed and devoted to improving their lives. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. Check out Order of Man. But if you really want to improve in life and you really want to move up in your leadership or your fitness or your relationships, whatever area of life it is, then yeah, there should be some obstacles. There should be some things that you need to overcome, because you want to make sure you're surrounded with the very best men who are also motivated and ambitious to do the same thing in their life.
Right. Growth is through resistance, not through the easiest path, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
in any area of life, right?
Okay. Rarely do you say, oh, wow, this guy that was handed a silver spoon and has never had any hardship in his life. Is usually the guy that you're going to be like, oh, wow, this guy's awesome.
Right.
Very often you can relate and you can see the character that's built through that resistance, so to speak, that trial that people have had to go through.
It's amazing. I think society, generally speaking, and I see this trend increasing, if you will, is that looking upon people that have had success in any area of their life, that somehow they cheated the system or they took a shortcut, or like you said, they were handed the silver spoon, and it's looked at negatively. And I see it exactly opposite. The majority of people who are successful when it comes to their wealth or their level of fitness or the relationships they've built in their life is more more often than not, it becomes as a result of their efforts and the trials and the obstacles and everything that they've overcome to get them to that point. They weren't handed anything, they took it because they deserved it, they earned it, they worked their tail off, and therefore now they have it.
Cool. So one last thing, which is, are there any asks of the people listening right now? Is there any call to action, anything right now that you'd like them to check out and consider?
Sure, yeah. You can. I'll give you two resources. The first is Order of Man. That's the Facebook group where we have, like I said, just under 1,600 guys over there. So if you want, you can head to facebook.com/groups/Order of Man, and you can request access to join there. So that's the first area that I would tell you to visit. The next one is if you're interested in the Iron Council and you want to check that out, there's a video, there's some more information that you can check out, and you can go to orderofman.com/Iron Council, and you can access the video, the resources, see what it's all about, and see if that's something that would be of interest to you. So those are the two resources I would leave you with.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a pleasure. I hope the men that are listening to this can get a clearer understanding of, first of all, who you are, what you're about, and the powerful community you've created both in the Order of Men and the Iron Council. So thank you so much for spending the time with us here.
Armando, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
My pleasure.